Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a new episode of Ask Huda, broadcasting to you live from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Before we take your first calls, we have a few emails pending from yesterday, and one of these emails I did not get enough time to answer it, and it stated that a brother purchased an unfinished house a few years back with the aim of renting once it is completed. However, he has changed his mind and decided now to complete this house and make it into a madrasa that teaches Quran and other Islamic teachings. What is the ruling on paying zakat? Kindly advise. First of all, we said yesterday that there are only 4 types that are zakatable, in the sense that we have to pay zakat for. Anything else that comes out from these 4 categories, we don't have to pay zakat. So if you master these 4 categories and you understand them well, then inshallah you'll find it way easy to know whether you have to pay zakah or not. And most of the questions that come up to your mind, 90% of them, you'll be able to answer yourself. The 4 categories are gold and silver in particular, and whatever falls under this category in terms of monetary banknotes. So gold, silver, dollars, euros, reals, dirhams, dinars, all of these currencies take the same ruling as gold and silver. The second category is things that are coming out of earth, that are planted. And it has a different nisab, a different ceiling to it, and its hawl, its turnover is different than the gold and silver, because it does not require to have a full year. Once it's time for harvest, you have to give zakat. And do I give zakat on fruits? No. Vegetables? No. So what do I give zakat on? On grain, on dates, on raisin, and things that can be stored, providing that they can be weighed as well, or measured by size. Third category is the cattle, living cattle. And this is goats, sheep, cows, and what falls under this category, and camels. You don't have to pay zakat on chicken if you're raising chicken, for example. But these 3, if they are not being fed by you most of the year, but they are being set free to eat from the wilderness, to eat from the land, and this is taking more than 6 months a year, in this case, you have to pay zakat according to the nisab designated for each category. And the fourth and the last one is things that are displayed, things that are used for trading, things that you sell and buy. So it keeps on revolving on selling and buying. These are the 4 categories. Now, if you master them, you would know the answer to this question. The brother says that I bought an unfurnished or unfinished house with the intention to complete it. Okay, what was your aim? If your aim was to live in it, there is no zakat. If your aim was to rent it, there is no zakat. If the aim was to preserve your money, instead of putting it in the bank, I'm just going to buy this house and keep it, there is no zakat as well. The only time that the zakat is doable is when you purchase it with the intention of selling it and then buying something else and selling it and then buying no zakat on the property itself. But if you sign a contract with a tenant and the contract starts off on the 1st of Muharram for a lump sum of money that exceeds the nisab, after a whole year, if the money is within your possession or a little bit less, as long as it is above the nisab, after exactly 1 year from signing the contract, you have to give 2.5% on what remains of that rent. But if you dispersed it, if you spent it, if you paid debts with it, if you don't have it anymore, in this case there is no zakat in it. Therefore, your intention to transform this house from being a property purchased for you to live in into a property that is for teaching the Quran and teaching Islamic science, by far this is one of the greatest intentions ever. And again, you don't have to pay zakah, because this land, this house purchased for the reason of having a school that teaches Quran and Islamic studies, this is not a property to be sold and bought. This is not living cattle, and this is not plants coming from the ground, and this is not gold, silver, or what falls under this category. So I hope this answers your question, and I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that we get more like you who devote their money for the welfare of the Muslims. We need endowments. We need people who have access money and say, listen, this building is for the sake of Allah. I'd like the revenue of this building to be spent over taking care of masjids. I'd like the revenue of this shopping mall to be spent for calling the non-Muslims to Islam for da'wah purposes. I like the revenue of this complex to be paid or to support TV channels and so on. This is one of the greatest deeds that a person would do, and this is not a one-time charity. This is what is known as sadaqatul jariyah. It's continuous. Even when you're dead, it keeps on generating and generating lots and lots of good deeds for you at the side of Allah, and we definitely all need that. The second questioner, it's a sister asking 3 questions. She says, during i'tikaf, do I stay there for the whole last 10 days, that is day and night, and am I allowed to speak to anyone? I'tikaf is one of the great sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ. In English, they call it seclusion. That is putting yourself in isolation in one of the masjids. It has to be in a masjid, and you have to isolate yourself from day-to-day routine. So you cannot have it in your house. Women cannot have i'tikaf in their houses. You cannot have i'tikaf in a prayer hall or a musalla. It has to be a place designated for prayer. And you have the right to do it for 10 days, and this is the best. You can do it for less, for a day, or for half a day, or even for one prayer. This all counts with the grace of Allah. So, do you have to stay there? You don't have to. This is a sunnah. If you stay 1, 5, 7 days, it's okay. And am I allowed to speak to anyone? Yes, you are. But you're not allowed to socialize and crack jokes and spend the whole day in laughing and meeting with other women and talking about everything and anything except Quran, Sunnah, and knowledge. You're supposed to isolate yourself and remember Allah throughout the whole 10 days. I think we have a caller from Saudi Arabia, Sister Shagufa, or Shagufa.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Salamatullah.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's regarding this Salatul Tasbih. Is it okay to pray Salatul Tasbih?
Okay.
And my second question is, we travel from Dammam to Makkah. So our miqat is at this Sahel al-Kabir. So we go to Makkah and we reach and we perform Umrah. If we have to perform a second Umrah, can we go to this Masjid Aisha and take an ihram again and perform the second Umrah? Is it okay?
Okay.
Okay. And my third question is, the name of my son is Kifa.
How do you spell this?
He is having a lot of health problems, and the meaning of his name is struggle.
What is it in Arabic or in English?
We checked it on the internet, the meaning of, pardon?
What is it in Arabic or in English?
It's Arabic.
Can you spell it? What is it spelled?
Pardon?
Spell it, please.
Kefah. Okay?
Kisha?
Okay. So we checked the meaning of the name. It's similar to jihad, struggle.
Okay. I don't know the word in Arabic,
so
but...
is his health problems and all the problems he's got because of the effect of the name? Do we need to change his name? Please answer my question.
Inshallah, I will do that. Sister is asking 3 questions. The first one on the validity of Salatul Tasabih. And it's an issue of dispute among scholars. Those who only looked at the chain of narrators, they graded it as authentic, such as Sheikh Al-Albani, for example. But others who looked at the context itself, the content of the hadith, and that it was only reported or narrated by Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, may Allah be pleased with him, one companion. And they looked at the reward which makes it the same if you do it once in your lifetime, if you do it once a week, once a month, once a year, once a day, the reward is the same. So they looked into the content of the hadith itself, and they graded it as a fabrication, because they say that this form of prayer was not prayed, there is nothing like it throughout the whole different types of prayers. And no other companion shared it with Al-Abbas. It was not reported, though such great reward would have been shared and would have been offered and performed by so many companions. Yet only one who reported it or narrated it was Al-Abbas. And for a number of different reasons, this is what caused ulama, scholars, great scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim, Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh bin Uthaymeen, and the majority of our scholars here in the kingdom to grade it as a fabrication. Therefore, it is not permissible for a person to do it because it is not an authentic hadith. As for the second question, they came from Dammam and they offered Umrah, alhamdulillah, and they offered their ihram from the miqat. Now they are residing or they're staying in Mecca. If they want to initiate a second Umrah, are they instructed to go to their own miqat, which is Taif, As-Sayl al-Kabir? The answer is no. As long as you are in Mecca and the initiation for the Umrah came while you are within the boundaries of the Mawaqit, which is in Mecca, in this case your miqat becomes like the miqat of the people of Mecca. All the people of Mecca, the residents of Mecca, when they want to make Umrah, they are forced to leave the Haram area into the Hill area, which is the area that is outside the outskirts of the Haram area, not the Masjid, but the whole greater Haram area. So the majority of them go to At-Tan'im, Masjid Aisha. If you go to Shemesi, this would have done the job. If you go to Ash-Shara'i', this is also would do the job. Therefore, it is okay for you to do that. As for the name, we will come to it after we take Naif's call from Palestine. May Allah liberates it and makes it an Arab and a Muslim state. Yes, Brother Naif.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
My first question is concerning widespread practice in my local community in Palestine of hanging shaped lights during Ramadan. Some of the lights have specific shapes, like crescents and stars. Is this a bid'ah and is it haram?
What is it that's taking this?
Excuse me?
I did not get what you're asking about. What is it?
Shaped lights. Shaped lights.
What's that? It's a light?
Yeah.
So it's like a lantern?
Yeah, like a lantern, but it's not shaped like a lantern.
Okay, it's shaped like? What is it? What is it shaped like? Animals?
Crescents and stars.
Ah, okay, crescents and stars. Okay, there's no problem in that.
Yeah. Okay, and my second question is, what is the Islamic ruling concerning a person with a contagious sickness or disease?
Such as flu?
Like, is it preferable for that person to temporarily avoid going to the masjid to avoid making others sick?
Okay, how sick is he?
Like.
Okay, I'll answer this inshallah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, regarding Sister Shaufa's question, I did not get the last question, the actual name. She's saying it in Arabic, it is struggle. And she gave me K-E-S-H, which is, I don't know. So maybe she wanted to say mashaqqa maybe. Mashaqqa is difficulty and tiresome or trouble. If this is the case, yes, this is a name that should be changed. But does it have to do anything with the health problem he's suffering? Allah knows best. We know for sure that names have effects on people. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he heard a name of a person that was inappropriate, he would change it. For example, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, his grandfather was a companion, and his name was Hazan. And Hazan means difficulty and hardness. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he met this companion and told him, what's your name? And he said, Hazan. The Prophet immediately changed and said, no, you are Sahel, which means easy. And the man refused, said, Prophet of Allah, I'm not going to change a name that my father gave to me. So the Prophet ﷺ did not elaborate. He did not comment on that, and he let it be. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, the grandson, says, Subhanallah, this hardship and hardness and rudeness, if you may say as well, kept on his lineage, kept on until it reached us. All of us were so tough and so difficult to treat with. And this shows that names have an effect. Therefore, if his name is inappropriate, you could either email it to me or call again and spell it, because if it means mashaqqa or su'uba or something that means hard, yes, you have to change it, as the Prophet would love to change these names that were inappropriate or had a bad meaning. Sister Salihah from Saudi Arabia. Yes, sister, what can I do for you?
My question is, what should I do in the last 10 days, alhamdulillah, to ask forgiveness for the deceased person in my family?
Only for the deceased?
Hello?
Only for the deceased? Only for the dead people?
Yes, for the persons who have died in my family.
Okay.
How should I ask forgiveness for them? What should I do?
Okay, I will answer your question, inshallah.
Ramzan Kareem to you.
Yes?
Ramzan Kareem Sheikh.
Yeah, Ramadan blessed for you and for your family as well. Jazakallah khair.
Okay.
Thank you. Shukran. Brother Naif called from Palestine, and he's asking about if a person has a contagious illness, such as a flu, or he coughs, is it permissible for him to avoid going to the masjid? And it appears to me that it is not, unless he is severely affected by it to the limit or to the stage that he drips from his nose and he may agitate people because of his movement and trying to protect himself from the sneezing and so on. But being a contagious illness, it is not like HIV positive. It is not like having something that is of an epidemic proportions. Everybody gets the flu. Everybody gets a sore throat. This is normal. And if we are so picky on who comes in and who does not into the masjid, we'll end up not having any coming to the masjid, because everyone has an illness or something close to that. Now, because of its stage, because it's contagious, this doesn't mean that you have to stay away and quarantine yourself in your home. You go to the office, you go shopping, so why don't you go to the masjid as well? No, go to the masjid and try your best to cover your nose, cover your face when you sneeze, and this inshallah is not is not something to be afraid of or to prevent you from praying. However, if you have something that is a little bit dangerous, more dangerous, if you have a skin disease that when touches people, it is contagious, no, this is something that is serious. But a flu or a sore throat, everybody has this, and inshallah, it would not prevent you from going to the masjid. Sister Saadiya from Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah.
Sheikh, I would like to know, currently the gold price in the market is 205. And if I go to sell my gold, they will pay me 194. So do I need to calculate zakat on 205 or 194?
Okay, I'll answer your question, sir.
And also, like from the past 5 years, we did not pay zakat because we knew that the zakat is paid on the gold which is bought for investment purpose or the gold which has not been used for a year. So keeping that in mind, we did not pay zakat. So this year, inshallah, we'll be paying because we came to know that it is paid on 85 grams of gold.
Yes.
So what is to be done for the past years now? And in case if we have to take out zakat for the past 5 years, then do we have to take out all at once or what is to be done?
I will answer your question, inshallah.
Oh, Jazakallah.
Wa jazaki. Sister Salihah was asking a specific question in these blessed 10 nights of Ramadan. What would I, or what can I do to ask Allah for forgiveness for my dead relatives? It's very easy. Just specify and say, oh Allah, forgive the dead relatives of mine. Or forgive all those who have died among the Muslims. Or specifically say, oh Allah, have forgiveness over my grandmother who passed away. You don't have a specific dua to say. So the more you ask Allah for forgiveness, to expand their graves, to fill it from the fragrance and the blessings and favors of paradise, to make their graves as far as they can see, to have a window from paradise open to them and giving them from its perfume and fragrance. All of this is acceptable. There isn't a specific dua for the deceased in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Any general dua would do. Oh Allah, grant them afiyah. Oh Allah, grant them al-afu. Anything we would say, this would inshallah do the job as well. Sister Salihah had, well actually, sisters, I forgot the name, Saadiya, yeah. Sister Saadiya, she has a question regarding gold. And she says that the price of buying gold is 205 and the price of selling gold is 194 or 195 or whatever. So what do I give zakat for? You give zakat for the price when you sell it. But I'd like to bring this up to the viewers because there is a misconception among a lot of the Muslims. They all know that the nisab, the ceiling for gold is 85 grams. So I get my wife coming and she says, this is my gold, please take it to the goldsmith and estimate how much zakat I have to pay. How much does it weigh? She says it weighs 100 grams. So how much do I have to pay zakat? So I tell her, if it's 100 grams, what carat of gold is it? And she says, does this make a difference? I said, a lot of difference. If you have 200 grams of carat 12 gold, maybe there is no zakat in it, because when we say that the ceiling is 85 grams of gold, we mean of pure gold, 24 carats of gold. Therefore, the other types of gold, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21, all of this has been mixed with other substances, so it's not pure gold. So it might be actually now weighing 100 or 150 grams, but there's no zakat in it. Because the goldsmith would tell you that the pure gold in it is only 60 grams. So it does not reach 85, you don't have to pay 85 of pure gold, you don't have to pay zakat for it. Now, if I have this 85 grams of pure gold and I'd like to give zakat, on what value should I estimate it? On the buying value or on the selling? You should estimate it on the selling value, because this is what you will do when you liquidate it, when you give it away. They're going to calculate it by multiplying by 195. Therefore, it's not the buying price, it is the selling price. Sister Samiha from Saudi Arabia.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Salam rahmatullah.
May Allah have His choicest mercy on all the Huda channel and you in particular.
Ameen, jazakallah khair.
I am a really continuous viewer of Huda, Qanatul Huda, and it is really such a blessing for whole the humanity. I'm so much thankful to all the viewers and all the Muslim and all the members of Huda Qanat.
Jazakallah khair.
Sheikh, I have a question.
Okay.
Regarding the ghusl.
Okay.
Actually, my husband has a little problem means while taking the ghusl janaba. After some time, means after 10, 15 or half an hour, he feels that there is still some wetness. Does he need to take the other ghusl or the first ghusl is valid?
Okay. Any more questions?
Do you get my question clearly?
I understand it. I understand it completely.
Okay, question number 2 is that I came from the background where we live in the whole family live together, means the parents, the children, everyone lives together, joint family set. There we used to cover all our we used to cover fully except our hands and our face. Though we have brother-in-laws living in the same house, while having food or in the kitchen, we used to sit together. So is it a sin to sit with them, showing our face only and hands, or is it permissible while living in home?
Okay.
Thanks a lot. May Allah bless you and may Allah have a kind and choicest mercy on you.
Ameen. Jazakallah
Okay,
khair.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Sister Saadiya's last question was, for the past 5 years, they did not give zakat, or she did not give zakat on her gold, thinking that only the gold that requires to be stored you must give zakat for. But if you wear the gold, you don't have to pay zakat on that. If this is, or this was her belief, and this is one of the opinions of the scholars of Islam, the issue of zakat on jewelry there is a dispute among scholars regarding this issue. Some scholars say that there is no zakat on the jewelry you wear, and some others say no, you have to pay zakat for the jewelry you wear and the jewelry you do not wear, and this is the most authentic opinion. But if you were following in the past 5 years the verdict or the ruling or the opinion of scholars that states that there is no zakat, then you don't have to pay zakat. From today onwards, you should pay the zakat on your jewelry, providing it exceeds 85 grams of pure gold or 595 grams of silver. Sister Samiha's question, we will postpone inshallah till after the break, so stay tuned.
Welcome to Ramadan in Focus. I'm Yusuf Estes. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, you can appreciate the subject of Ramadan. As we say in Texas, get the hay down where goats can eat it, Totally and completely all mercy, if there is mercy, must be coming from Ar-Rahman. How much? 99 times all of the mercy that's ever been shown in this universe is going to be shown to the believers on that day. And certainly we will need it. Isn't that the truth? Look, this is from the mercy, the rahmah of Allah. So it's always a responsibility of Muslims to make sure the right message gets out. But it's also our responsibility to listen to those in authority over us.
The entire staff at Huda would like to wish you a wonderful and blessed Ramadan.
All the prophets are brothers, and they represent the same message. What was the call of the Prophet? What was his invitation? He was inviting to what? So the Prophet said, "Oh Allah, grant your mercy on the one who is tolerant if he sails, on one who is tolerant if he buys, and one who is tolerant when he seeks his right. Try to discipline them in the best way. Those daughters will be his shield." That means those will be the reason, the cause of his protection from hellfire. Because of what? Taking care of them. What you have in this life, no matter what you have, is less. And it is temporary.
The entire staff at Huda would like to wish you a wonderful and blessed Ramadan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. We have a second question from Samiha KSA. She's saying that her husband, after having a total bath due to sexual impurity after intercourse, he feels that there is something coming out of him, and it might be some remaining drops maybe, and most likely it is from shaitan. It is whispering from shaitan. So is he obliged to have another ghusl? And the answer is no, first of all, to the question. He does not have to have another ghusl. The first ghusl is enough. Now, any other ghusl that follows has to be either due to intercourse, which did not take place, or due to ejaculation. So even if semen comes out but without ejaculation, there is no ghusl for that, because the only two reasons for having ghusl would be ejaculation and intercourse, even without ejaculation. Her second question is regarding joint families. And a lot of the families, especially originating from India, Pakistan, and from the subcontinent, usually have a beautiful tradition, and that is they live together. But unfortunately, this may have consequences. So by default, if a man marries a woman, he lives with his parents, the woman becomes a servant to the whole house. She has to, it's a must, serve his parent, his father, his mother, his siblings, and this is not right Islamically. This is not part of her duties or obligations. She is entitled for a separate house. Though we appreciate him living with his father and mother, nevertheless, this is not the right thing to do. However, about your question, we will take Sister Fatima from Morocco, and we'll go back to that, inshallah. Sister Fatima?
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
I had called a week ago concerning my menses, but I still was unclear about a couple of points, and I wanted some clarification, please.
Okay.
And I'm afraid you might have answered my email and missed it, and so if you did, please forgive me. But my situation again was that I normally have a regular menstrual cycle, but however, this time my previous period had lasted about 7 days, and it was pretty light, and it didn't have the usual light discharge at the end, and then I washed up and prayed. But only after 1 week, a whole new flow of blood occurred, and so it acted like a new period. You had informed me that it's considered to be menses as long as 15 days in one monthly cycle, or as long as 15 days had not lapsed in one monthly cycle. However, I was wondering, am I to count each of these periods as separate cycles, or since they've occurred in close proximity to one another, was I to add them together, then wash up after the 8th day of the second flow of blood, meaning 15 days combined? Because I was counting the second flow of blood as separate, and so I've been waiting for it to end, and yesterday was the 10th day of this second period, and just before Fajr today I didn't notice any blood, and I washed up and prayed, and I intended to fast. However, I just again saw spots of blood. And so can you please help me in this? Should I consider this as still my period and wait for the 15 days up, or should I consider this irregular and
One
despite
question.
spotting? Wash up, or?
I'll ask you one question. Now, when you
Yes.
first got the 7 days, you start the month from the first day you got the 7 days. And a week later, you were pure for a whole week. And then you got your second menses, which is 10 days. Is that correct?
Yes.
No. Now, you have only to take 8 days of it, because you cannot have in 1 month more than total of 15 days.
Okay, so it's the time period of 1 month.
Yes.
Okay.
So in this case, now you have 2 days to make up, which is the 9th and the 10th day of the second period. Take a shower, fast, and whatever comes of blood afterwards, don't consider it.
So I washed up this morning and took a shower. That's enough?
Yep, that's enough.
Okay. Jazakallah khairan. And please, just one more additional question. I often spot before my period, and usually after seeing some spotting within a day or two, the flow of my period begins. However, once in a while, I spot once or twice a day for some 5 or so days before the beginning of my period. And so I was wondering, how should I treat this spotting, since I can't know for sure whether, when I see these spots, if right away my period's going to come or not.
Okay, I'll answer you, inshallah, when you're off the phone.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sister Samiha's question about the joint families. If a woman out of goodwill agrees to live with her in-laws, Jazakallah khair, may Allah reward her for that. But she has to be careful, because her brothers-in-law are not mahram for her. So this means that she could not come out in normal clothes in front of them. She cannot socialize. She cannot cracking jokes, have humorous environment and laughing and exchanging conversations. This is not permissible. They are total strangers for her. And 99.9% this is not possible. And therefore, it is haram for her to do this. To sit on the table and eat with them properly dressed, it's an issue of you dispute whether the face is a awra or not. I personally believe that it is a awra, and the most beautiful thing in a woman is her face. When you want to marry someone, you don't ask about her figure. You don't ask about how her hair looks or what the color of the skin. The first thing you'd say, how is her face? If it's a beautiful face, then we look at the other characteristics. But you cannot marry someone who's ugly, who has an ugly face, even if she has the body of Miss Universe. So it is not permissible if you believe that covering the face is a must. But if you believe that uncovering is permissible, and you go in the streets and you this is how you go out, if you eat on the same table while your husband and your mahrams are there, your father-in-law, and you do not exchange jokes or you do not socialize, I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that this is permissible. But again, segregation is inevitable. This is the Islamic way. Men eat with men, women eat with women, as long as they are not related to each other and they're not mahram to each other. This is the Islamic principle, and we should throw all the customs and the traditions in the garbage. We should only follow the Quran and Sunnah. If we are truly Muslim, if we say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, prove it. And this is the way of doing them. Abdul Aziz from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
My question is it permissible to make dua in namaz? If yes, when and how we can do, and in which namaz, farz or nafil?
Okay.
Can we do dua after finishing namaz by raising hands? And my second question is, we are saving certain amount of money every month out of my husband's salary with the intention of buying house, as we don't have any house. So we need. Do we need to pay zakat on this amount?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sister Fatima from Morocco's second question. She says that before her period, usually she gets droppings, spots. And a day or two afterwards, she gets her normal period. But sometimes this extends to 5 days. So what is the ruling on such spotting? Some scholars say that if this is the trend and the norm, every single monthly period, a woman gets these discharges, this yellowish or brownish discharge or the spottings, if this is the norm, and immediately half a day or a day she gets her period, then she should consider this to be part of her period. But if it's a spot or two, and it is not consistent, sometimes it comes, sometimes it would be like 4 or 5 days afterwards, she should not pay any attention to these spottings. Why? Because the Arabic word of hayd means or is stemmed from had al-wadi, when the valley floods. So hayd means flooding. The blood is gushing in a sense. A drop or two does not stop you from praying or from fasting, unless this is the norm. Since you've noticed it and realized it, it immediately comes half a day or a day afterwards. But as I've understood from your question, no, you do not consider this to be part of your menses. Abdul Aziz had two questions. The first one is, you can divide it into a number of issues. She's saying, is it permissible to make dua, to supplicate, to invoke Allah Azza wa Jal while in namaz? And namaz should not be called namaz. It's either prayer or salah. So we call it salah as Allah Azza wa Jal has called it. The answer is yes, you can make dua while in your prayer. And she's saying, in fard or nafil, in voluntary or mandatory prayer, in both. And she's saying, when do I do this? And the answer is, as the Prophet indicated, ﷺ, two locations. One, in every prostration. Whenever you prostrate and you say, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih, then after that you can supplicate as much as you wish and please. The second location is, after you finish the Salatul Ibrahimiyya and you have the salam to conclude your prayer. In between, this is a time of answering your supplication. Because the Prophet ﷺ told us, فَلْيَتُخَيَّرْ مِنَ الدُّعَاءِ أَعْجَبَهُ. He would choose, you should choose whatever you would like and love from the invocation or supplication. So, after the tashahhud and before concluding the prayer, while you're sitting, the imam usually, or on your own, you can supplicate as much as you want. Now the fourth question she did not ask, and I would answer that for her. And this is a bonus. She should have asked, can we make supplication in our own language, or must it be in Arabic? And the answer is, if you do not know Arabic, you can supplicate to Allah in your own native tongue, in your own mother tongue. This is permissible. But if you're able to ask or invoke Allah in Arabic, you have to do it in Arabic. So if I would like to ask Allah for forgiveness, I would not say, oh Allah, forgive me. I would say, Rabbi ghfirli. I know it in Arabic. But if I want to say, oh Allah, help me pay the debt of the house that I have accumulated over the past 6 years, I don't know how to say this in Arabic, so it's okay to say it in my native language. Okay, Brother Jahir from Emirates will take his question and continue then afterwards with Abdul Aziz. Brother Jahir?
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, I have one question.
Okay.
Yeah. There is just on. Yeah. I just want to one of my relative.
I can't understand you. I'd like you to talk to me through the phone and turn off your TV volume, please.
Yeah. You are clear now?
Yes.
Yeah. I have given the loan to one of my relative, some amount.
Okay.
Actually, you know that actually he cannot in a position to pay back.
Okay.
Actually, can I give the zakat and by the zakat I can adjust that money? I mean, I give the zakat, I can get it back.
Now, you lent your relative money, let's say 100,000, and he cannot pay it back. So you want to take from your zakah and give it to him and take the money, the loan back from him, right?
Yeah.
I will answer your question.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Alaikum salam. Abdul Aziz, second question. Well, actually, the first question also she asked about the ruling on raising the hands after the salah for invoking Allah Azza wa Jal. If you do this once every blue moon, this is permissible. Raising the hands after salah for dua, it's permissible once every blue moon. But if you do it every single day, and after each and every mandatory prayer, this is a bid'ah. This is an innovation. Don't do it. And she was asking about, if I remember correctly, they save an amount of her husband's salary so that they would be able to purchase a house in the future. So she's asking, do we have to give zakat? The answer is yes. Any amount of money deposited and the whole year passes when the money has reached the ceiling, which is the equivalent of 595 grams, approximately 3,800 riyals, 3,800 riyals, approximately. So if you have this ceiling or above, and a whole year passes, whether the money is for buying a house, or for getting married, or for paying off the cost of an operation, a medical operation, or for buying a car or a house or whatever, you have to pay zakat. Even if you have $3 million in debt, you have to pay it to the people. This money you have, you must pay zakah for it. Or, because a whole year passed over it. So, either pay part of the zakah from it so that you won't have any money left, or give zakat as long as you have it for a whole year. Brother Jahir, he's saying, and this is a legitimate question, a lot of the brothers ask about it, and they say that if I gave my relative or a friend money, and he's so broke, there's no way I'm going to get this money back. So is it permissible for me to give him from my zakat, I have a bunch left, and I give the zakat of that to him, so that I would take part of my money, my loan? The answer is no. You are allowed to give him zakat without demanding him to pay you back. Because you have to pay this 10,000 riyals of your zakat. So you're going to actually take physically 10,000 and disperse it and give it to the poor, to the needy. If you go to him with the 10,000 in your hand and you know that your debt, it's a dead debt, you're not going to get it. The guy is broke. So if I go to him with my 10,000 riyals zakat and say, listen, you owe me 10,000 and you're in need, and this is 10,000 for the zakat. So take it and give it back to me because this is my zakat, this is my loan, this is my money. If you do this, at the end of the day, your money is still intact. You did not pay zakah. So you have hit two birds with one stone, and this is not permissible. You give him the zakat, regardless whether he gives it back or not, this is up to him. Brother Umar from Emirates.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I have two questions.
Okay.
First question is, you know, Northern European countries or Scandinavia, they have a different way of doing Ramadan, how they can tell the fast and how they pray. Could you explain how they should do it? Just a curiosity. And the second question is, you said you can do dua in your own language, right?
Yes.
For when you do the witr for Taraweeh and there's the last rak'ah after Sami Allahu liman hamida, can you do the dua in your language, or that must be in Arabic? That's it. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
You're welcome, bro. Okay, so Brother Jah's question, we gone through that, inshallah. Brother Umar has two questions. First one is quite interesting because he's asking about the Muslims in Scandinavian countries. How should they observe Ramadan? I've never been there yet, but I don't know why he's asking about this question. Probably because the daytime there is so short during the summer, or this is the opposite, because the night time is so short and the day is so long. It may reach 20 or 21 hours a day. So how would they fast? It's very simple. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, and the Prophet mentioned in the Sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that a Muslim must fast if he can distinguish between day and night. So the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, if the day goes from here and the night comes from here, then the person fasting would break his fast. The scholars say that even if we are able to identify nighttime only for an hour, in the whole 24 hours, 1 hour of nighttime, and the rest is 23 hours of daytime, you must fast the 23 hours. This is a must, because Allah Azza wa Jal revealed His Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal instructed His Prophet ﷺ, and this religion is fit to all times and all places and all people. So, if you can distinguish, yes. But if it is 24 hours daytime or 24 hours nighttime, this is what I read. I've never been there, so I cannot imagine how things are. But if they can see, if they can see the sun throughout the whole day, throughout the 24 hours, it never sets. So what would they do? In this case, they should go and look for the closest country to them that has a distinction between day and night, that has a sunset and a sunrise. And they should fast accordingly. And they should fast as they do. This was stemmed from the hadith of the Dajjal, when the Prophet told us that the Antichrist, the Dajjal, would stay on earth for 40 days. One of them is equivalent to a year, and one is equivalent to a month, and one is equivalent to a Friday, which is a week, and the rest of the days are like your days. So one of the companions said, about the day which is a year long, this is actual year, but the sun moves so slowly that it takes 360 days to rise and set. So what kind of prayer do we do of Prophet of Allah? Do we pray the prayer of a day? And the Prophet said, no, estimate for it. Meaning that you have to pray the prayer of a whole year, but due to the condition of the sun, you have to estimate, and you say, okay, now 3 hours, it's Dhuhr time. 2 hours later, it's Asr time. 3 hours later, it's Maghrib time. You have to estimate and try to figure it out. So I hope that this answers his question. Regarding the prayer, the same thing applies. As for the second question regarding Dua al-Qunut, he says, okay, if you say that those who do not know Arabic, they're entitled to make dua in their own languages. So if I'm praying witr, and I say, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, and I raise my hands, and I'd like to supplicate, is it permissible for me to supplicate in my own language? If you and those praying behind you do not know the qunut in Arabic, which is Allahumma hdini fi man hadayt wa afini fi man afayt wa tawallani fi, etc. It's a couple of lines. It's very short. If you do not know it in Arabic, yes, you can do it in English. You can do it in your own native language. But if you do know this portion in Arabic, you must say it. And if you'd like to add something afterwards, providing that everyone behind you do not know a word of Arabic, so it is okay and permissible for you, as long as you as well don't know the Arabic invocation or supplication, it is permissible for you to supplicate in your native language, because this is the best of your ability. Having said that, is it mandatory for us to make qunut in witr? If you look at all the mosques around the world, you find that this is becoming a must, and it is not. We don't have any one hadith that the Prophet ﷺ offered qunut himself. The only hadith we have is the hadith of Hassan ibn Ali, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father, where he, when he was a child, 8 or 9 years old, went to the Prophet and asked the Prophet ﷺ to teach him something to say in witr. So the Prophet taught him Dua al-Qunut, the very short one. Now, compare this to what the people have done nowadays. Instead of saying it in like 30 seconds, you get imams saying it in about 20 minutes. It's even longer than half of the prayer they had prayed previously. And this is taking it out of proportion. This is not part of the sunnah at all. Second of all, the amount of innovation, if we would say that, thinking that it is a must to say, it's not an innovation. It is part of the sunnah. If you say it, alhamdulillah. Ibn Taymiyyah says, if you make dua al-qunut all year round, this is okay. If you don't do it at all, this is okay. If you do it sometimes and leave it sometimes, this is the best. So it is recommended that you teach the people and you teach yourself not to do it every single night, especially in Ramadan. Because when you don't do it, when the imam does not do it, people come up to him and say, why didn't you do qunut? As if he had done something wrong. While it's not wrong at all. Third of all, it should not be recited as the Quran. When the imam says, Allahumma hadina fi man hadayt, and he gives the same recitation as if it's Quran. If were not Arab, I would think that this is part of the Quran. The guy is, and everybody's saying, Ameen, Ameen. What are you doing? If you supplicate in a straight voice. Allahumma hadini fi man hadayt, wa afini fi man afayt. And don't give it the same way of reciting the Quran, because this is an innovation by itself. So I hope this answers the question of Brother Umar. We have a number of questions pending, but I think that we are out of time. So until we meet you next week, inshallah, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate